I hate Apu.
Hate Apu.
And because of that, I dislike The Simpsons.
The whole series.
Yeah.
I love The Simpsons because...
You hate yourself.
That was Kal Penn. You may remember him from his roles playing stereotypical Indian characters in Van Wilder and the Harold and Kumar film series. And that was a clip taken from a 2017 documentary called The Problem with Apu. You know, the owner of the Quickie Mart in The Simpsons? Well, it turned out that the guy who did the voiceover for Apu's character was a Jewish white guy called Hank Azaria. You may also know Hank from his voiceovers of several other characters in The Simpsons.
Excuse me.
Hello, welcome to the Quickie Mart.
Sir, we can pay you back for the donuts when we find our car.
Do you think I am moved by your sob story? I come from a country where the words for sewage and beverage are the same.
Yeah, I'm looking for a friend. Last name Keybum, first name Lee.
Hang on, I'll check. Hey guys, do I got a leaky bum? Come on, look at the stools. Is there a leaky bum?
Hey, Chief, we could arrest every single car thief in Springfield.
After the show, Lou. After the show.
You know why they got us sitting next to each other.
'Cause we're the two funniest guys in our towns?
Damn right.
I think by now you've probably figured out the problem here. Within the Indian American community, let me do that bit again. A few Indian American Hollywood comedians got together and made a documentary in 2017 called The Problem with Apu, which was headed by chief creative Hari Kondabalu, who got the idea for the documentary after doing a short bit complaining about the portrayal of Indian Americans through The Simpsons character Apu when he was a writer for the now cancelled stand-up comedy TV series called Totally Biased with Kamo Bell.
How many of you had to deal with being called a poo or that being referenced?
So basically, this documentary was a race-baiting exercise to see how many Indian American celebrities were offended by Apu's character through perpetuating racial stereotypes that were supposedly harmful for the Indian American identity. Just quickly though, as a little side quest, I don't know if you noticed or not, but that was actually Hasan Minhaj in that short clip I just played, raising his hand when asked if he fell victim to casual references to him being called Apu as a child. I recently made a video detailing how he completely made up many of the stories that he's told where he was the victim of racism, except like I said, he completely made them up, 'cause being a victim's funny apparently. We're not exactly off to a good start here. Anyway, back to this so-called documentary. As a result of its release, Hank Azaria, the voiceover actor, he decided to come out and cancel himself from voicing 4 characters, including Apu, Julio, Bumblebee Man, Carl, and Lou.
After the documentary, the problem with Apu about the convenience store character that you used to voice, you said, I'm not going to voice that character anymore, and I'm not going to voice other characters that you've been with for decades that aren't my ethnicity. Walk me through that decision and if you miss them.
Well, I did all those characters with love and to the best of my ability. And as you said, they were created in a time where we didn't think twice about providing voices like that or caricaturing or parodying different ethnicities. And that's that turned out to be part of the problem is we didn't consider it. We didn't consider the ramifications it might have. And in some ways, those consequences weren't clear for 10, 20, 30 years later. It's about acknowledging, for most people, it's just blind spots. It's just not considering what the consequences might be, the effect it might have had on people of color, whether they're Indian or Latin or Black or whatever part of this culture. On the one hand, they didn't want to knee-jerk respond to criticism and just stop doing a voice, because that's what it came down to for me, is do I stop doing this voice or not? Which took really a few years for me to sort out. I didn't want to knee-jerk stop because people, the joke I make, but it's kind of true, is this like 17 hipsters in a microbrewery in Brooklyn deciding who should say what and when? Or is this like a real harm that was done?
Okay, first things first. Hank Azaria is an incredibly talented individual. For decades, he's done some of the funniest, most memorable and professional voiceovers we've ever heard, and he well and truly brought those characters to life. But apparently Azaria was unknowingly committing the act of brown voice similar to blackface, which has its roots in the performative arts where white actors would use burnt cork, grease paint or shoe polish to darken their skin and perform as black characters. Brown voice is somehow related and consists of, well, white people putting on accents to portray brown or black characters in cartoons. I'm not so convinced, as you can probably tell, and either was Akaash Singh, who you probably know as Andrew Schultz's play toy. He themed his whole comedy special around this in 2022, calling it Bring Back Apu.
Did you take any shit? Like, you have this defense of Apu, which is a hilarious bit.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
It's so dead on,
I
too.
appreciate
It's like,
it.
why is that offensive? Well, why is that guy offensive? But does anybody give you a hard time about that?
I'm getting some comments. What I want to differentiate is the difference between your hurt feelings and being oppressed. Your hurt feelings are valid. And if kids made fun of me for it, that's valid. That hurt. I can go talk to a therapist, but you're not oppressed. And that's what I thought canceling Apu was. It was, we think we're oppressed and we're not at all with that.
Well, there was a lot of things going on, right? Like, first of all, there's a white guy doing the voice.
Yeah.
What's that dude's name?
Henry Azaria, the
Hank
goat
Azaria,
dude.
right? Yeah,
that's my guy, bruh.
He was on, what else was he on?
Oh, he's done accent. He's in everything. I understand the context with which The Simpsons was created. It was a show that came out in the late 80s. I didn't know any Indian actors, much less voiceover actors, to do that voice. So he did it, and then he brought it to life. And I looked at The Simpsons, and I said, this is the most three-dimensional supporting character on that entire show. Everybody else is a static. Chief Wiggum is static. Moe is completely static. Barney's a drunk loser all the time. Apu is like three-dimensional, and he evolves more than every character on that show, including The Simpsons. He gets married, he loses a business, gains a business, has kids, becomes a father. So, like, I love that story. That's a beautiful story. He's the American dream on that show.
Have they completely removed him from the show?
He's gone from the show. And I think it's because, dude, Apu, if it was voiced by a brown person, Apu is so many of our parents, and I don't mean that I mean that in the most respectful way. Like, I used to always hear, back in the heyday, people would say, The Simpsons represents every level of society. That's why the politician is a sleazebag and the billionaire is a corrupt f***. And Apu, I really thought, whether they meant to or not, represented the American dream. He came to this country in search of a better life. He worked hard. He was mostly honorable, and he built a f***ing life. And that is our parents. And we should all be so proud of our parents. And it sucks that a white guy was doing the voice, but at the time, I don't think they had an option. He's doing 12 voices. They just threw him one extra.
Right.
They didn't have a budget. And then he made it something. So I would say some of the jokes were a little hacky. You can evolve those, but you don't get rid of the guy completely. It was an overcorrection.
Ladies and gents, I never thought I'd say this, but Akaash be spitting facts. Like I always say, credit where credit is due, and I truly think that he feels strongly about what he's saying. He's not just using the Apu controversy for clout. You can tell by the way he's talking about it, it comes from a place of deep thought and consideration. And I think coming out like that, leaning into the controversy and making a joke out of it while at the same time sending a strong message to other comedians that they need to stop being such snowflakes about some random cartoon character, yeah, I think that shows great strength of character for Akaash. I mean, when you think about it, every single character in The Simpsons is based on some sort of racial, sexual, or cultural stereotype. That's kind of the point of cartoons. They're caricatures of real-life people with an emphasis on that stereotype. Otherwise, it'd just be a sitcom or a movie, and even those formats are based off stereotypes. And these Indian American comedians who are complaining about all of this, I mean, give me a break. Most of these guys made careers out of playing Indian stereotypes, and now all of a sudden, once they've found fame and fortune, it's offensive. It's like all these rich elites telling us to reduce our carbon footprint. Meanwhile, they're cruising around on private jets 200 times a year and living in massive houses with multiple cars in their garages. Okay, well, here's a fun little exercise for you then. Name one non-white comedian who hasn't made a career out of racial stereotypes or drawing attention to racial prejudices or just in general focusing on their race or identity. Go on, I'll wait for you. I'll give you a hint, it's a very short list. Even our boy Dave Chappelle has been out there using his ethnic background as a source of some of his best skits and jokes for decades. It's basically all Akaash Singh talks about in his own routines, and don't even get me started on Hasan Minhaj. There are so many examples of black and brown comedians who lean into race identity politics to write their jokes, and as far as I'm concerned, if the joke's funny, who cares? Fine. But it's when they start calling out someone else's comedy and creativity as offensive, that's when the hypocrisy gets a little bit too much for me. Yes, Apu was based on a racial stereotype, but so was every Simpsons character, and it's funny, get over it. What about all of Sacha Baron Cohen's characters? We couldn't stop giving that guy awards 10 years ago. Now look, at the end of the day, just like Akaash said, if you're offended, that's okay. But that doesn't mean we need to cancel everything we find offensive. I guarantee you, if you made a law that comedians weren't allowed to use race as the basis for a joke, then none of those comedians who were complaining about Apu would exist. They'd all be doctors and cab drivers or convenience store owners. See what I did there? But anyway, I've given you my perspective. I hope I've done the controversy some justice, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about all of this, so drop a comment below and I'll pin the best one as usual. Don't forget to subscribe so you get all my videos in your feed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a really great episode, guys. You guys did an amazing job.